Hello there and welcome to another video from Greener Side Language Academy. Today we're going to be starting a new series, and this series will be focusing on the CSEC Spanish paper 2. That's the reading and writing exam. And today we're going to be focusing on situations in particular. That's the first section of the exam. Now, just a few tips before we go deep into this. Remember that for the situations, you're required to give accurate, simple, and concise responses. Alright? So you want to ensure that your answer is not too long, it's not too complex, and that it is accurate as it relates to grammar. Ensure that you limit your response to one sentence only, and we'll get back to that later on. Identify the language function that you're expected to use, which can be found in the CXC syllabus, and use wide and varied vocabulary and idiomatic expressions. Now, the situations are worth 30 marks out of a total of 100 marks. The entire paper is valued at 100 marks, so the situations value 30. So I'd recommend you spend between 30 and 40 minutes on that section if we're going on the ratio of marks to time. Alright? Now, of course, we're always going to be taking a look at the mark scheme because that's where we go to find out exactly what CXC requires of us. So each item is going to be assessed for its appropriateness and how correct it is as it relates to your grammatical structure, your spelling, your tenses, and so on. So that is very important. Accuracy is always at the top, and appropriateness, meaning that you've answered the question appropriately. But what about the length? Now, as I said earlier, you must limit your response to one sentence, because what the markers will do is to put a slash after the first sentence and they will not mark anything after that. So if it is that part of your response was in the first sentence and the other part was in a second sentence, that answer would have been marked as incomplete, because in the first sentence you would not have covered everything. So ensure that you limit your response to one sentence. Alright? If it is a case where you have two short sentences and it is relevant, you must have two sentences, then you might be excused, you might be allowed to have it that way, but I'd recommend as much as possible to use just one sentence. Now, if your answer has all the elements, right, so all the elements in the situation and it communicates the appropriate meaning, you will be marked out of 3, right, because that is the total mark. So if you have everything in order, you'll get 3 out of 3 marks. However, if it's only partially appropriate, your response is only partially appropriate, meaning that you might be communicating the meaning but you don't have all the elements in the situation in your response, or vice versa, then it will only be marked out of 2. So the maximum marks you'd be able to get there is 2. So you want to ensure that you look at the question and respond correctly and completely. Alright? But what about if you have some issues with your vocabulary or with your structure and it doesn't convey any meaning at all, it's not appropriate? Then in that case, you get a 0 because you wouldn't be answering the question at all, or the answer would have been so incomprehensible and so unrelated to the actual situation that the marker could not possibly mark it or give you a score for that. So once again, ensure that you are appropriate, you are accurate, right, to ensure that you can score as many marks for this section. Now, these are the language functions I was talking about. In the top right corner, you should see the link for the CXC syllabus that contains all of these language functions, which you can go through in more detail in your free time. So just click on that link in the top right corner to see that list or to see the syllabus in its entirety. However, today we're going to be looking at a few of these. Here we have greetings, farewells, and well wishes, gratitude, apologies, regret, congratulations, sympathy, condolences, and many more. So let's get right into it. Practiquemos. Let's practice. So the first one we're looking at is expressing obligation. So the situation would read, you have to stay back at school this afternoon. Write the text that you sent to your mother explaining this. Now, you can already start thinking of possible answers you would give. You could use tengo que, right? So tener que, which means to have to. Deber, which means must, basically. And hacerle falta, right? Which means to need, basically, when you translate it. And all of these expressions would be followed by the infinitive of the main verb. So, for example, tengo que estar 2 horas más en la escuela para terminar un proyecto de grupo. So I need to stay back, basically. I need to be in school for 2 hours more in order to complete a group project. Now, notice that I have also stated the reason, right, for why I have to stay back, which is a part of the question. I have to explain why I'm staying back. Alright? Then you have debo dejar la escuela más tarde porque el club de ajedrez se reúne hoy. I must leave school later, or at a later time if you want to translate it that way, because chess club is meeting today. Alright, so notice debo followed by dejar, the infinitive of the verb dejar, which means to leave. Then we have me hace falta salir tarde hoy porque recibí un castigo. I need to leave late today because I got some form of punishment. Alright, so this could be like a detention, something like that. A good reason for having to stay back. And again, after me hace falta, you see the infinitive. Alright, so these are all possibilities that you can adapt to the situation that you'd see on the exam, of course, for this particular language function. What about making promises? Your mother is visiting Canada and promises to do something for you while there. That should be while. Write the email she sends to you. So, of course, you can use the verb prometer plus the infinitive. So your mother would say in the email, prometo comprarte el juego que querías. I promised to buy you the game that you wanted, right? Voy a traer dulces canadienses para ti. I am going to bring Canadian sweets for you. Sacaré muchas fotos de la ciudad con tu cámara. I will take many pictures of the city with your camera. So notice there are several ways to indicate that you're promising something. So you use the verb to promise, or you can just say you are going to or you will do something. So using both forms of the future tense. So that is enough to indicate a promise. Alright, so these are just some structures that you can use when answering a question related to promises. Making requests. So now you have an activity after school, but forgot something important at home. Write the message you sent to your mother requesting her assistance. Alright, so immediately when we look at the question, we see that we have to include information about the activity after school, the fact that we forgot something at home, and of course the request for assistance. Alright, so what's the message gonna say? It could say, ¿puedes recoger mis lentes en casa, por favor? Can you get my glasses that are at home, please? Or you can say, hazme un favor. And then, of course, whatever you want the favor to be in a command form, in the imperative mood. So prestar means to lend, right? So, préstame tu tableta porque dejé la mía en casa. So do me a favor, please. Lend me your tablet because I left mine at home. Alright? So you're requesting something, right? You're requesting a favor. So as long as you're able to find a way to respond in this particular situation, it doesn't necessarily have to be that you say it a certain way. It just has to be logical, it has to use a correct structure, and it has to identify or acknowledge the particular language function that is being expected right there. So if you know that it's gonna be requesting something, then you have to ensure that you're using an expression that would indicate that you're requesting something. So, necesito que tú recojas mi raqueta de casa. I need you to get my racket from home. And of course, all of these, whatever we use here, the vocabulary indicates that there is some activity, right, that is attached to it. So, puedes recoger mis lentes en casa. So, mis lentes, you need your glasses for a particular activity. Tu tableta, you need a tablet for that activity. Or, mi raqueta, right? A racket, my racket, of course, for tennis. So, notice the structures that are used here. Puedes plus infinitive. Hazme un favor plus the command form of a verb. Then, of course, necesito que, and then the subjunctive, right? These are all forms to request something. Now let's look at if we need to be congratulating someone. Here's an example of a situation. Your cousin won a scholarship to a prestigious university. Write the message you send congratulating him or her and asking for details. Ensure that you answer this question in full. Notice you're not just congratulating your cousin, you are also asking for details. So you need to ensure that you cover all aspects of this question. So, felicitaciones, right? That's one way to say congratulations. Felicitaciones por tu éxito. ¿Es una beca completa? Congratulations on your success. Is it a full scholarship? So notice I'm asking for additional details. And also, in a case where I don't want to put a full stop and indicate that this is that I'm using more than one sentence, notice I'm using what? A semicolon. Because a semicolon functions very similarly to a full stop, but the difference is that the sentence does not end with a semicolon. So my tip to you all would be to use a semicolon in the case where you feel you must use more than one sentence, right? And then that will, get rid of the whole issue of having more than one sentence. As well as you can use conjunctions such as and, but, y, pero, something like that, that will indicate a connection, so a compound sentence per se. Alright, felicitaciones por tu éxito, es una beca completa. So we said what that means already. Enhorabuena, ¿dónde está esta universidad? So another way to say congratulations is enhorabuena, right? That's how they say it in Spain usually. So congratulations, where is this university? Alright, so asking for more details after expressing a congratulations. Okay? Now we have warnings. Your sister has been spending too much time chatting on the internet instead of studying. Write the message you send warning her of the consequences of her actions. So of course you want to imply, that not studying will lead to some negative consequence, right? Or spending too much time on the internet will lead to some negative consequence, right? So let's look at that. How would we respond in a situation like that? So of course it's a warning, so we use an expression of warning. Ojo literally means eye, but it can translate to watch out, right, from Spanish. So when somebody says ojo in Spanish, it means watch out, be careful there, right? Watch yourself. So ojo, si no estudias, vas a desaprobar tus exámenes. Watch out or be careful, if you don't study, you're going to fail your exams. ten cuidado, which means, of course, it's another command. Ten from tener, it's a familiar command for tener. Be careful, that's what it really means. Ten cuidado, necesitas pasar más tiempo estudiando si quieres graduarte este año. So be careful, you need to spend more time studying if you want to graduate this year. Also, so another thing that there was very instrumental here is the use of si. Si meaning if. And we tend to use if expressions or if clauses when we're giving warnings. So if you do this, this will happen. Or if you don't do this, this will happen. Right? And so you're seeing that after the if, this and that, if plus present tense, then the thing that will happen as a consequence is given as a future action. So if you don't study, you are going to fail. So that is one structure that you can use. Alright. So these are all possibilities. There are other possibilities out there. Feel free to comment down below any other possibilities for this question. Alright, what would you write? Put in the comments. Making recommendations now. Your teacher has asked the class to write their suggestions for a venue for this year's graduation ball. Wonder how that would go this year. Anyway, write your suggestion with an appropriate reason. So, to make a recommendation in Spanish, you could either use the verb sugerir or recomendar. Okay? So, sugiero que el evento tenga lugar en el Hotel Pegasus porque es elegante. So, if you're gonna say sugiero que or recomiendo que, you know that what's gonna follow. The verb that follows is going to be in the subjunctive form, right? So in this case, we're using the present subjunctive. So here we have tenga. So tener lugar means to take place. So in this case, the response would translate to I suggest that the event takes place or take place at the Pegasus Hotel because it is elegant. Or the second response, recomiendo que vayamos al Parque Nacional porque tiene jardines bonitos. Right? I recommend that we go to the national park because it has beautiful gardens. Alright, so I'm giving a reason every time as the question stipulated. Okay? What about for those cases where we have to express sympathy and condolences? So your friend's father has just died. Write the condolence note that you send with an offer of assistance. So two things you have to ensure that you keep in mind, right? The condolence note and the offer of assistance. And if possible, you can indicate, that it's referring to your friend's father. In this case, I wouldn't say it is necessary to say that it's, for his father based on the expressions you use, but if you can, that would be, beneficial to you. So here's what I mean. This expression that is used very often in the Spanish language is mi más profundo pésame, which means my deepest condolences, right? So in a case like that, you don't necessarily have to mention anything about the father because we already know who has died, right? So, mi más profundo pésame, dime en qué puedo ayudarte. So my deepest condolences, tell me how I can help you. So that's the offer of assistance at the end. Then we have te acompaño en tus sentimientos y te prometo que estaré a tu lado. I don't want to translate it too literally, but literally it's saying I'm accompanying you in your sentiments, basically. And then the last part is the offer of assistance saying, I promise that I will be right by your side. So that kind of opens up the way for some form of assistance. But if you want to be more specific that you will help, then that's definitely more advantageous. And then of course we have giving orders and expressing obligation. A storm is approaching and your parents are overseas. Write the message your mother sends instructing you of something you should not do during the storm. So of course there are many things you can do here, but two of them are as follows. You can use a negative command using the imperative mood, right? As in this case, no vayas afuera durante la tempestad. Do not go outside during the storm. So that's a negative command. I use no and then the negative imperative form. That is informal in this case since it's a mother talking to her child, right? But you can also say you must not, which is no debes, and then the infinitive of the thing that you should not do, the verb that indicates the thing you should not do, the action you shouldn't do. No debes dejar las ventanas abiertas durante la tormenta. You should not or you must not leave the windows open during the storm. Alright, so as always, many other possibilities, but I leave you with these. Muchas gracias otra vez por ver este video. Thank you so much for watching this video. And before we leave, I want to say to you, or before I sign off, I want to say to you, mantengan la calma y aprueben el examen, as I always say to you. Alright? Now don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you've not yet done so. Share this video with your friends and of course give it a like. I really do appreciate it. Muchas gracias y hasta la próxima.